for fantasy. Football franchise, talking about that guy. Hoogie, Tyler every week. Heavy analytics, competition real steep. Whoa, that's sweet. Oh, in this belief. Nick so sick, man, bringing ships the whole fleet. Goats, not sheep. Follow every tweet. Don't sleep, always finding sleepers on the street, boy. F3, winning every single league. Money back guaranteed, but it's free. Welcome to the franchise. Welcome to the franchise. Let's go.
All right, welcome back to the F3 Pod. I am here with my co-host Joey.
You can find me at Joey the Tooth IDP.
And Andrew.
What's up? I'm pretty sure my Twitter handle is at ViddyCentFF.
It is. Yes, it is. So this is going to be an interesting one. Andrew is lacking sleep here, and it's either going to be more annoying than usual or better. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he sat on a horse tranquilizer.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him, but this is going to either be way better or way worse, and we're on this journey together. So you can find me at Lanny1925 on Twitter. We're going to do our last episode of running back previews before we move on to wide receivers. We'll probably come back to running backs at some point, talk about some other guys that have kind of risen through the process. And then we'll obviously do something toward the end where we kind of rank everybody and work them together and stuff. But today we are going to start with Trey Sermon. When do you guys want to kick it off and talk about Trey Sermon?
Yeah, I actually I liked what I saw out of Trey Sermon for the most part. I thought he had good lateral agility. He moved side to side good. Good patience and vision. Good contact balance. Strong stiff arm. Let's see. He's got a really nice spin move in the open field. I felt like his feet were quick, but the one thing he lacks is explosiveness. He wasn't an above average athlete by any means. I just felt like his actual running style and his running traits were really impressive. Just he kind of lacks that explosiveness.
Yeah, so I kind of disagree with you on a couple of things. The one thing that I definitely agree with you on is his footwork. I thought he had awesome footwork, and I thought he had awesome body control too. So while, yes, he lacked kind of that explosiveness, I think that showed up in his lateral agility, where you liked his lateral agility. I thought that lack of explosiveness really showed up in that area where he just didn't really have it. But he made up for that a little bit with his body control, where his ability to contort himself, minimize contact, and just kind of pick his way through traffic and stuff, I think gave the illusion of lateral agility when really it was just making slight, subtle adjustments with his body to work his way around defenders. I thought he had really good vision and running back IQ. He was really good in pass pro, adequate hands, and I thought he was surprisingly elusive despite the lack of lateral agility, which again calls back to the body control. Again, part of that has to do with his vision and IQ, where I think he sets up defenders with his blocks and stuff really well. He's an upright runner. He doesn't really have great top-end speed. I didn't think he had great contact balance. I thought he went down on first contact far too often. And he didn't really seem to have much power to move the pile and stuff. So to me, his overall profile, it kind of just looks like somebody. Oh, he's also really good at blocking. Something that I know. It's just in general. But his profile kind of looks overall as somebody who is going to get the most out of what you give him with the offensive line. He may not do great things in space, but it seems like he can catch the football well. He can run between the tackles. He can run out in space, even if he's not going to make a ton of people miss on a regular basis. He can maximize yardage in those areas. So I think he's just a pretty well-rounded back, and that vision and IQ and patience is going to help him a lot. But I don't think that he's anybody that's going to be a priority for a team to get him involved. So I could see him kind of sneaking into like the back half of a committee, but that's probably about where I think his ceiling is.
Yeah, I agree.
Andrew, what do you think?
Excuse me. I agreed with a lot of what you guys said, but I disagreed on a couple points, I guess. So I didn't see the contact balance that Joey alluded to, same as Sean. I thought he went down relatively easy on contact quite a bit. I did see good lateral agility, but again, it might have been back to what you said about deceptive because of his body control. You guys both said he lacked explosiveness, and so I'm not necessarily sure that I saw explosiveness. What I saw was he looked like he played fast. And so I don't know if that's just his decision making allows him to look like he's playing at a different speed than other guys, but I thought he looked like he was always sort of able to take advantage of opportunities. So if like a hole's open, he'd get through it. That might not be explosive, it might just be he's able to recognize more quickly. So and Sean, you said that he wasn't elusive. I did see some signs of elusiveness. But he's not like going back to his contact balance. I don't think I saw him break a single tackle. Like he just if he doesn't make you miss, which you're saying it's not necessarily an elite trait, he's not going to break a tackle. I do agree with Joey on the patience and the vision. One thing that I don't think either of you brought up was that I saw him doing a lot of body catching. I don't think hands are a strength of his. I think he's not, a hands catcher. He's going to let him get in his body, which I think there's a couple things. It's going to lead to possibly more drops, but also it's going to slow down his transition from receiving into running, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And the last thing that I had was he just looks. Not to say that he's not comfortable running inside, but he looks so much more comfortable running outside. Like I think he's going to be much more successful in an outside zone sort of scheme, I think. But
okay, so first of all, I thought he was surprisingly elusive despite his lateral agility. I just don't think he's going to make people miss on a regular basis. Yeah, I definitely saw the body catching as well. I thought his hands were adequate, but you're right, he lets into his frame too often. And the bigger thing is that he's a bit of a taller back, so like the size of his target should be a plus for him. But you got to work outside your frame for that to be a real positive for you, and he doesn't really seem like he does. I think the one other thing worth mentioning is that he was going up against a lot of Big 12 defenses, which is a huge advantage. So just something to keep in mind. But again, like, I don't know, I think he has an interesting profile, and I think that like he could carve out a role in the NFL. I don't think that he's going to be a priority for any team to try and make him like a part of the game plan, but I think that he could definitely be a change of pace back somewhere for somebody if he's working behind like a solid offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Second guy we're going to talk about is JJ Taylor. One of you guys want to talk about JJ Taylor, or you want me to kick it off?
Oh, I'll go, I guess.
So reluctant.
Actually, I quite like JJ. I think he's probably my second favorite out of this group. Despite the fact that he doesn't necessarily profile like a guy that's going to be a huge contributor in fantasy football. Just because, what I saw was a between the tackles grinder with some power, with some explosiveness. Like he's got some athletic ability, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to have a ton of explosive plays. So I thought he was powerful. I thought he had good contact balance. I thought he was really good in traffic. I didn't think he was very good in pass protection, which I think you alluded to being a strength of Trey Sermon. I think he looked a little bit lost, and I thought he just got overpowered quite a bit. But which I find a little bit confusing because like I did think he was very powerful, and I thought he's like a tough physical runner. He looks difficult to tackle. So I would have thought that would translate to a certain extent in terms of his toughness and blocking, but he just, I don't know, if it's a lack of technique or what that allows him to struggle in that area. I didn't see him being very elusive, but he breaks tackles. So to me he's quite the opposite of Sermon. Like he's not going to make you miss, but he's difficult to bring down. For his other traits, I thought he looked surprisingly comfortable catching passes. I was actually pretty impressed with that. And I thought he had good vision. And that's sort of the last thing that I wrote down was that he's got like a violent running style. Like he embraces contact, which again, I don't necessarily know that he's exciting to me as a fantasy football asset, but I think he could be potentially an effective runner in the league.
So first thing, I disagree with a couple of things there, but first thing I'll address is your pass protection things. So the big thing is that he is 5'6", 185 pounds.
Okay.
So he's got a very built frame, and like 185 pounds is really small, but in terms of like being 5'6", 185, that's a pretty well-built frame, but it is severely undersized. So you're not going to see that hold up well against defensive ends and stuff when you're trying to actually anchor down and block them. But that low center of gravity and compact muscle build can still translate to contact balance, right? So my first concern there would be with his running style, how well does that contact balance actually translate to the NFL when you're playing against better athletes, bigger guys, all that stuff? I actually thought he was very elusive, though. I thought his burst and lateral agility were excellent. Those were double plus traits for me. I thought his speed was adequate. His burst was excellent. I thought his vision was a little bit inconsistent at the line of scrimmage. He bounces stuff outside a little too often. I think that was just something that he preferred to do because he works better in space than he does between the tackles. I thought he had really good balance, keeps a really good low center of gravity, and has good pad level. And he catches passes well. And his vision actually is excellent once he gets into the open field. Once he is in space and knows he has to beat specific defenders, his vision and ability to beat them in that way is excellent. I think it's when he's at the line of scrimmage trying to figure out where he needs to go or how to best attack the line of scrimmage is where he fails. So I'm a little concerned just about, and I don't think he has much power either. I know you said powerful, but I think contact balance is something he excelled with, but power is not. So like he's not going to be able to move the piles at the NFL level, especially at 185 pounds. So he's not going to run people over. He's got to be a guy who can bounce off tackles. And the thing is I think that he can be that player in the NFL, especially as somebody that can catch passes. I think his running style is going to have to change a little bit, though. He's going to have to be a less violent runner, and he's going to have to try and opt toward beating people with his lateral agility and elusiveness more than with his contact balance, because I don't know that his contact balance will hold up as well at the next level where his lateral agility and elusiveness should. That's
it's interesting that he's that small. I actually have specifically not been looking up numbers on guys, and I didn't. I mean, I picked up that he wasn't a huge guy, but I didn't pick up he was that small off the film, so that's interesting.
Yeah. I watched him. I do love his hands. I think he's great in the passing game. Like you said, his vision was inconsistent, but one thing I did see, he does keep his shoulders square, so he does have the lateral agility. If he can improve his vision, I think that can become a very positive trait for him. I feel like he does a good job of contorting his body, making himself small, because he is a smaller guy and he fits through very, very tight windows at the line. But at the same time, I see you said he had good contact balance. I saw him go down too often when running through between the tackles. Like, he's just a little guy. I saw him get wrapped up far too often.
Yeah, and I can see that. That's a little, to me, contact balance is your ability to stay on your feet through contact, whereas getting wrapped up and brought to the ground is not so much balance as it is just lack of power. You know, he's not a strong runner so much as he is a resilient one.
Yeah.
Andrew, did you have anything else you wanted to say about J.J. Taylor before we move on here?
No, that's good.
All right. Well, then we are going to take a short break, and we will be back to talk Reggie Corbin. All right, we are back, and we're going to kick it off with Reggie Corbin here. When do you guys want to start on Reggie Corbin?
Sure. I really disliked Reggie Corbin.
Really? Okay.
I didn't think he was very good at football. So he is a guy that jumped out at me on film as being small. I didn't look up his height weight, but he just struck me as being a physically small player.
5'10".
5'10" what?
200.
Yep. So he is undersized.
Yeah. But for being an undersized player, I didn't think he excelled in the areas where you need to excel as an undersized player. The same way, like the areas that J.J. Taylor did excel in. Because the other guy, I saw him getting blown up in pass pro. I felt like J.J. Taylor was much more explosive, and I felt like more powerful as well. I know you disagree with my assessment of being powerful, but Reggie Corbin looked significantly less powerful. I thought she showed some signs of being elusive, but to me it wasn't consistent. And given how small I felt he was, it wasn't elusive enough. Like he's going to get hit, and it's going to take a toll because he's undersized. I didn't see a ton of involvement in the passing game, but I did see one pretty brutal drop. So I don't know that his hands are, and like it was like a brutal drop. I don't think his hands are super consistent. And I didn't see like elite agility. I didn't see breakaway speed. I didn't see great vision. I saw him running into the backs of linemen. So like there were occasional plays where he would break one outside and he'd get a big play, but I feel like there's dozens of players that can do that can do other things as well. And I think that's really where like the one area where he has the potential to be effective, which makes him very one-dimensional in my opinion. So he was the player from this group that I liked the least.
Yeah.
The least, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Over Larry. Sorry.
I really dislike Larry as well, but no.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with Corbin. I think athletically he looks good. I thought he was explosive. I thought he had good top end speed. I thought his lateral agility was good. His vision was inconsistent. There was times where you saw him break through the middle, but I thought the guy's just all thumbs. He has terrible hands. His strength was a negative for me, and also his contact balance felt like he went down far too easy. And for a guy who probably would project with athletic skill set to be more of a passing down back, to not be able to catch the ball at all does not bode well for him in the NFL. Plus, he had I don't know if it was a coaching change or if they added another back to the thing, but right before we went on, I looked at his stats, and his production, he got more carries in 19 than 18, but had 400 less rushing yards. His yards per carry went down from 8.2 to 4.4.
Yeah, I'm interested to go back and watch some of his 2018 tape and just see what he looks like there, see if there was a scheme change or something. That'll be something to look into before we do our second round of going through these guys. I agree with almost everything you guys said. I do think he had good long speed and good burst. I thought he had good lateral agility, and I thought that he was pretty elusive at both the first level and in space. However, huge pass pro concerns. Hands were inconsistent. I have him listed as adequate, but I think that like he's not going to be a threat. That's not going to be how he wins in the NFL. He lacks power, has trouble creating yards after contact, has a tendency to try and bounce things outside, and it leads to losing yards far too often. And I think that if you're going to be a running back that loses yards, you have to have that home run potential, because like the value of the running game is the lack of like true negative plays, like when you throw the football, you can have sacks, interceptions, fumbles, whatever. All sorts of bad things can happen on passing plays. Running the football, the primary benefit of it is that you rarely fumble and you don't lose yards very often. So if you're going to be a running back that loses yards, you have to have those positive benefits, which are really those like 10 to 15 yard runs, 20 plus yard runs. You have to be able to contribute in the passing game, all that stuff. And I don't know that he's going to be a contributor in the passing game. I think he does have like the big run potential, but I think that it's going to be too few and far between to actually be a benefit. So he was somebody that like, I like his film for the most part and enjoyed watching it, but I don't know how much I trust it translating.
Just for the record, Joey, having all thumbs I think would benefit you in the pass game because it's really hard to catch without thumbs.
It's good talk. It's good talk.
Is it hard to catch without fingers though?
But I think if you had extra thumbs, like because they're opposable, then you could like. I think it'd be better than having no thumbs. You're trying to catch
your thumbs. What if you have thumbs like me, like hitchhiker thumbs? They point out. Then you're just catching all right here. It's not gonna. You have nothing to.
I want to play football with you.
All right, we're gonna move on from this just fucking dreadful conversation. Jesus Christ. All right. Almost as bad as that conversation is Larry Roundtree. Who wants to start off their complaints about Larry Roundtree first?
Me? Let's see. Poor vision. He's impatient. Poor contact balance. He's below average athletically. He looks lost in the passing game. I don't think I saw a positive for him when I watched. I was one of those guys that if I was a GM, I would watch him and say, all right, just move on. I literally have nothing good to say about Roundtree.
Andrew, do you have anything good to say about Larry Roundtree?
I like his name. It's a good name. I mean, a lot of the same stuff, Joey. I thought he looked relatively to the other guys we've looked at, relatively big. I haven't checked that, but he looked bigger. He looked like he had the potential to be powerful. I just didn't see it translating on film. He looked slow, very poor in pass protection, and like so to me, he profiled like he should be a solid between the tackles runner, but he looked terrible every time he got into traffic. Like he didn't have the ability to navigate traffic, set up blocks, et cetera, et cetera. He just, no, it was, I had to stop watching. It was too bad.
I kind of did the same thing. I'm not going to lie. I watched one game and I watched the second game and it was like, I got like halfway through and I'm like, I've seen enough. There's nothing that, like, I don't see glimpses of anything that's going to change.
So I watched a little more than you guys because like this guy did have hype coming into this year and I wanted to see it. Like I wanted to see what people were excited about and I just didn't see it. I'm just going to go down the line of all the notes I got here. So big physical back. I think he was an above average athlete. Lacks vision, lacks patience, hasn't shown the tools to consistently beat defenders in really any way in the open field. Not involved in the passing game, lacks body control, runs out of control. Change of direction, affected by out of control style. It seems like his hands are capable, but like it's tough to buy that when they didn't involve him at all. His speed was decent, I guess. Like I didn't think that it was a negative, but his routes are completely questionable. So, yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot to like, and I don't really see how he carves out a role for himself in a team in the NFL. But I don't know. That's just me. I was not a fan of him at all.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was. No.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there that likes him.
Sorry, Larry.
I bet you his parents think he's the best.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast because he's probably going to try to kill us.
I'm betting he doesn't. But, I mean, who knows, I guess. So.
Wait, is he the listener?
Huh?
Is he the one listener that we have? We should probably hype him up if that's the case.
The hell is wrong with you? All right, we're going to take a short break, kill Andrew, and then come back as a two-man show here. All right, Andrew is unfortunately still with us. So, Andrew, you want to kick it off and talk about Joshua Kelley?
He survived.
Yeah, I actually I like Joshua Kelley. I thought he was the first guy from this group that I liked, and I saw a lot of positives that maybe impacted how little I liked Corbin and Roundtree. I don't know, but I didn't see a lot of involvement in the passing game. But when he got balls thrown his way, I thought he caught well with hands outside of his frame. He looked adequately powerful. I don't think it was certainly an elite trait, but he had enough to win that way. I thought he had good burst. One thing I liked is he looked multidimensional as opposed to how I felt about Corbin, where I thought he had enough burst to get outside, but he's also not afraid to run between the tackles. I thought he was able to succeed in both areas. I thought he had good contact balance. Maybe not elite, but certainly better than a couple of the guys we talked about. Again, I didn't look up his measurables in terms of his size. He looked small to me, but he didn't play small. Like, he didn't play scared, like he was afraid to mix it up. I thought he had good vision. I thought his long speed was just moderate. It wasn't really threatening, but if you get the opportunity, he could take a long one to the house. And I thought he was okay in pass protection. After watching some of the guys, I actually thought he looked a lot better than most of the guys we talked about tonight in terms of pass pro. So, he's a guy, again, we have to talk about being able to, take one strength and have one elite strength and being able to capitalize on it. I don't think he has that, but I think he's well-rounded enough that he could be effective and less one-dimensional than some of the guys, I guess. So
I have him listed at 5'11", 214.
Okay.
So he's a good,
pretty good size.
Yeah, he's a good size back. Joey, you want to talk about Joshua Kelley quick?
I thought he was good in the passing game. I feel like he adjusted poorly throwing balls pretty well. He has good hands. I thought his lateral agility was pretty solid. It wasn't like explosive or anything, but I thought it was pretty good. He runs a bit too upright. I think he could benefit from lowering his pad level a little bit. I thought he had a good strong frame. His initial burst is good. I thought he had adequate top end speed. I don't think it was anything to blow your mind, but I thought his initial burst was pretty solid. I felt like his patience, something he needs to work on. He runs into the line far too often. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know. I think his biggest thing I saw that I liked the most was his ability to work well in the passing game. I thought his route running was decent. I liked the way he caught away from his frame. And apparently he made some good noise at the Senior Bowl, but I know it's not really catered to running backs. But
yeah, and the reason we put this guy on the list to talk about is because he has had a lot of Senior Bowl hype. I think he's okay in the passing game. I think that he has a weird combination of lacking patience and aggressiveness at the same time in just different situations. I didn't think that he really had the power or the elusiveness to beat defenders one-on-one. I thought he lacked lateral agility. His vision was questionable. Really, just like for back his size, he should be able to do a lot more in terms of power and contact balance. I really don't think he does. And I think that he just kind of has poor footwork and just isn't able to capitalize in space. So, like, to me, if you're going to be a back that I did think he was a decent enough athlete, so he can get the corner and stuff. But, like, if you're not going to win in the open field, then you're going to have to be a between the tackles runner. And if you don't necessarily have above average contact balance or power and you also lack vision, patience, aggressiveness, all of that stuff, I think that there isn't really a role that you're going to excel in the NFL. I don't know. Do either of you guys disagree with that?
I think he could fit in as either like a backup or possibly a back end of a committee. I think he's got enough to his game where he could.
Okay. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I think sort of what Joey said. If he gets involved in the committee, it's all about opportunity at that point, right? And so if he gets the right opportunity, I think he could produce. I think he's, like you said, he's a good enough athlete that in the right situation, the stars align, right?
Okay, but is that different than anybody else? Like if Larry Roundtree was put in a situation where he was getting carries, I don't think he's going to produce any less than Joshua Kelley outside of the passing game.
I disagree.
I do too.
I can't like.
I thought Joshua Kelley's running rates were much more positive than Roundtree.
Like, I feel like Kelley has the opportunity. I don't think he's an elite at creating his own yards, but I think he's going to create his own yards better than Roundtree in a situation where you have poor O-line play. And I think in a situation where you have good O-line play, he's going to be able to take advantage of much better than Roundtree. So I think in either case, he's going to outproduce Roundtree substantially.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I guess I don't really like either of them very much. That's just kind of where I'm at. I don't know. Those are guys where, like, if they're the best available player on my draft board when it comes time to draft one of these guys in rookie picks, I'm just trading the pick away.
I was just gonna say you're just gonna trade it.
Yeah, I'm just giving that pick up, and I'm taking a next year's pick a round later. So
a round later?
Yeah, I'll take a round later to avoid them.
Wow.
So yeah, those are the 5 guys we kind of wanted to talk about today. We did have a couple other players that we watched, or that I guess Joey and I watched. Andrew hasn't done anything as usual, but
I was specifically told not to watch them.
You were not. You were never told any such thing.
I've got receipts.
Okay. Bring those receipts to the next show here. All right, so I want to talk Benny Lemay real quick. Small school guy. I thought his vision at the first level can be a bit inconsistent, but he has a really good blend of elusiveness and balance, excellent instincts in traffic. He's a fighter through contact. I kind of question his athleticism just because he is a smaller school kid, and I'm not sure how much of him looking like a good athlete was based on poor competition. So he's going to be one to watch if he gets a. Does he have a combine invite? Do we know?
That I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping he does because that'll be definitely a box for him to check. He's poor in pass pro, which, I mean, I kind of expected just from his frame and being at a smaller school and not having a ton of experience doing it. But I thought he had really nice body control, really quick feet, good footwork, deliberate steps. He's a capable route runner. He's 5'9", 215. So that's like a really stout frame.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really good size for him. And then I think he's got really good patience at the line of scrimmage. So like to me, Benny Lemay has a lot of things that I really like about his game. And I like him more than some of the guys we talked about today. So he's definitely one I'm keeping an eye on. The level of competition is definitely a question mark. And it will be interesting to kind of just like see how he tests and stuff like that, just so that we have something to compare him to all the rest of these backs here. Joe, you got somebody you want to talk about?
Darius Sanderson from TCU. He's a pretty good running back. I liked what I saw from him. He has good patience. He's got pretty good vision. He's not really. You didn't see much from a lateral agility standpoint because he's more of like a one cut and go guy. He just plants his foot, finds the hole, and just bursts. But he's got good burst, good top end speed. He wasn't asked to do it much at TCU, but his hands are more than adequate. I feel like he looked really good in the passing game when he was asked to. There was one game, I think in 2018 against Ohio State, which still had Nick Bosa at the time, where he put up 154 yards and 2 TDs. So that's an elite defense right there. They just used him inconsistently. He had his most carries he had once in a season was 151, and that season was cut short due to injury. It's just his biggest fault, I feel like, is inconsistency. But I think he does have all the traits to be a productive running back. It's just you need to see more of it.
Yeah, so he's just got to put it together more consistently.
Right.
So, Antonio Gibson, somebody to keep an eye on. I think he's going to test really well at the combine, and people are going to really like it. He played kind of a gadget hybrid role of wide receiver running back. A lot of people have made the comparison of Tony Pollard, and I think that's probably the best possible comparison. But he's got really good top end speed. He's good in space. Obviously, great at catching the football, running routes, and all that stuff. At the Senior Bowl, they have been using him strictly as a running back, which is probably an indication that that's where he's going to spend most of his time in the NFL. And I think somebody with just that playmaking ability being utilized in a third down role could be a very interesting type of player.
Nice.
You got anybody else, Joey?
I got one more. Salvan Ahmad from Washington. He's kind of a smaller guy. He took over for Myles Gaskin. He's 5'11", 196, so you'd expect him to be a lot quicker than he is. He's got good patience. He's got good vision. But when he hits the hole, you watch, he doesn't have the explosiveness you'd expect of somebody of 196 pounds. He's willing in pass protection, but he's not good at it. His technique's terrible, and he leads with his shoulder too much. I do like his lateral agility. He has a nice jump cut. But again, his speed shows up when he runs outside. I've seen him where he takes it outside numerous times, and instead of trying to keep breaking outside and make the corner, he tries to cut back to the middle, and he gets stopped every single time. He looks pretty natural running his routes. He catches away from his body well. But unfortunately, like I said, like his role will likely be a third down role in the NFL, and his lack of explosiveness, I think, is really going to affect him greatly in that aspect. I think he needs to test well at the combine in order to actually get a chance in the NFL.
Yeah, and the other guy I watched was Tavien Feaster, who was kind of getting hyped up a little bit at the Shrine game, and I didn't really see a whole lot from him. I didn't think he really had any elite, excellent traits that excited me as a fantasy football prospect. Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Was there talk of him coming out last year? Because I recognize that name. Was there more hype around him last year than this year?
There might have been. I actually don't know what year he is. I'm guessing he's a senior, but let me see if I can pull him up here quick.
I thought Shrine Game he had to be a senior. Or is that just a Senior Bowl? I thought they were both seniors only.
I think it's just the Senior Bowl, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But yeah, either way, he wasn't super exciting to me, and he'll probably be an undrafted type of back, late, like 6th, 7th round at best. If he goes any higher than that, I'd be absolutely shocked. So that's kind of one where you just wait and see, and maybe he ends up in a really nice handcuff role. But definitely wasn't impressed by anything I watched from his film. So yeah, that's kind of what we've got for the running backs so far. We'll come back and revisit this later in the off season. Next week we're going to be talking wide receivers. So definitely talk Judy. Definitely CeeDee Lamb. Who else you guys want to kick it off with?
What about T. Higgins?
Okay, Higgins.
Henry Ruggs,
and then we got either Chenault or Rager.
Either way.
I think
Rager.
Yeah, let's go Rager. So yeah, we'll watch those 4, and then we'll be back to talk another group the next week, and we're just gonna kind of work our way through these wide receivers before we get to this like dreadfully unimpressive tight end class, and try and find some gems in there, because
I feel like we should do some extra groups of receivers and just less tight end.
Yeah, no, we've got a lot of wide receivers to talk about here, because this wide receiver class is really good. The running back class is really good, but the wide receiver class equally good, in my opinion, if not better. So very excited for that. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about before we wrap it up today?
I'd like to just say rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. It's some pretty terrible news to hear today.
Yeah, that's obviously a tragedy. Helicopter crash is just a bizarre,
weird way to go.
Yeah, I can't remember the last helicopter crash I've heard of. Oh,
John Denver, or was that a plane crash?
That was for sure a plane.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, or was that a plane too?
That was a plane too.
Damn it.
Lots of people died in plane crashes. Not many helicopters. But all right. Thanks for joining us, guys. You can find us on Twitter at Laney1925, at Joey the Tooth IDP, and at BiddyCentFF. You can find our written content at dynastyfootballdigest.com or at idpguys.org. If you go to the websites, you can get a subscription that will get you tools, rankings, combined offensive, defensive ADP, trade calculator, start sit charts once the season starts, access to our Slack channel where you can ask us basically anything, and you can find our video content at Writer Digest Network on YouTube. Writer spelled Reiter. Yeah, we should really drug Andrew more often. This just goes so much more smoothly.
Or just get him hammered the night before.
Yeah, maybe. All right.